Women in Leadership, brought to you by Heroncode, the management consultancy for what happens next. For more information, you can visit heroncode.com. Ladies and gents, welcome to another episode of Heroncode podcast, Women in Leadership. We promised you a great season. It's getting better and better, and today is absolutely no different. Today's guest has over 12 years experience in female fitness in Saudi, pioneering and paving the path for Saudi female instructors. She's also a mentor to many entrepreneurs, trainers, and clients, transforming them to help achieve their goals. Please welcome to the podcast, Fatima Batook. Welcome.
Hi, thank you.
How are you? Are you feeling good?
Good, very good.
Yeah? I hear this is your first podcast, so I'm hoping I'll do it justice. Look, I'm so excited to be in this conversation with you because in the process of research, you should have seen my face when I was like just reading all the media articles on you, words spoken by others about you, but also words that you've spoken yourself about your journey and your story. You are so invested personally and professionally in the health and the wellness world. So I guess my first question to you would be, what started that fire and that passion for what you do?
Wow, that's a long story.
It's a loaded question.
Yeah, it is a loaded question. Well, I have to say it started because of a personal journey that I was going through, a transformation, a physical transformation that I've gone through at a very young age. And it stemmed from a very painful loss that I had, which was my father's loss when I was 19 years old. And that was like a wake-up call for me to become a better person and serve my body and myself right. And it started there. And I always say it's always from pains is where we start really finding our true calling. And that hardship is what really taught me and guided me towards fitness. But for me, fitness wasn't really a point of just a weight loss thing. It was really an emotional journey. And I think that's what really the essence of what targeted it is. For me, emotionally, I wasn't stable or unhappy or whatever people call it today, you know. And I think fitness guided me to really find who I am. And when I started that on my own, I just became an incredible person in my early 20s, and went all around the world seeking knowledge in this profession because it wasn't available in Saudi Arabia at that time. And I'm talking about 2005, 2006. And I came back to Saudi with this knowledge and passion for fitness, and wanted to like spread it and share it with everyone. And, and it's like, when you're coming from a carnival and you're all hyped up and you come in and then there's like crickets. Yeah, that's how it felt. And I felt, no, people need to know this. They need to understand. And, the first thing that specifically women come around fitness is weight loss. And I would, and for me, I was like, okay, that could be the key because that's what they saw in me. They're like, oh my God, you lost all the weight. How did you do it? Just to tell us the story. What did you do? Is it a pill? Is it an injection? Is it a surgery? Is it, everyone wanted that thing. And it's like, even if it is, people do take whatever they take, at the end, if they don't change their lifestyle and really that change comes in from within, which is change themselves and really find themselves and find that balance within them mentally, spiritually, physically, everything, nothing will help. And I think that was really what I wanted to get through women in Saudi. Yeah.
And I completely agree with you. I do think a lot of people have those moments in their life, right? Where they're at their lowest low, and that is when they decide to like super dig in deep. And if you don't mind me asking you, take me back to that moment where you experienced such a loss in your life, but before that, who was Fatima before that loss and before that transformational moment?
Oh my God, you're going to make me cry.
Not my intention.
Yeah. Well, yeah, before that, I have to say, I would refer to her to someone else because I feel she is someone else. A person who was undisciplined, a person who thought there was always shortcuts to getting things. I was looking back at her, I believe that she was unhappy, struggling with a lot of difficulties within her environment, her family, her community, her country. I just felt out of place, and I always felt the odd one. And it was, for me, dealing with that was all about emotional eating, or like it's excessiveness of everything. It's not just the food, it was of everything that wasn't good. That wasn't good for me, and I think that had to stop. And but I have to say that person always had a fire within her. Always had a fire within her, who was looking for something, but she didn't know what it was. And she was calling out for help, but there was no one to really guide her. And I think the different circumstances that I was within, I'm the only girl between 5 boys in Saudi Arabia. So that was hard. Having lost my father at a young age, and he was my rock. But all of that, but still, I can't say that looking back at myself, the younger self, and even younger when I was a child, I was always that kid, that person who was always trying to push the boundaries, who always wanted to do something different. But I was always named as a rebel, as a person who is not behaved or conformed or whatever it is. And that put a lot of pressure on me, because I always wanted to please people also, and I wanted to conform and make everyone happy, but I didn't stay for too long,
Yeah.
But at least I think from that, I started my journey of self-discovery. I channeled that energy in the right place. And I'm sure that if I hadn't, I'd be ended up somewhere else, and some other person than the person I am today.
Yeah. And, it always happens at the time it's supposed to happen. Sometimes it hits people at the age of 70, 80, a lot later on in their life. A question to you is, if you could speak to that version of yourself and go back
and make me cry
and talk to her, what would you, like, if you could sit down with her and say something, what would you say to her?
I'd tell her it's going to be okay. Yeah, I think that would be, it's going to be okay. And just keep on trusting your gut feeling. Because there were many moments where I doubted myself. And no, keep on pushing. And, and stop pleasing everyone.
And I feel like, we have those blocks in so many cultures around the world where, we feel like we're betraying someone or something to be who we truly are. And these are blocks and boundaries which you just bulldozed through. I mean, it looks like that from the outside in, but of course, I'm sure there were so many internal struggles that you were going through. I think your story is fascinating because, like you said, what you did was, of course, you were in Saudi, but then you said to learn and to follow your passion, you turned global and you went around the world. I believe you did business school in the US. Yeah. So how was that for you then? Because now you're completely part of pretty much an opposite world.
Yes.
How was that?
Every part of me wanted to be part of that world. It's the only thing that, I grew up with a mother who is a super woman, a feminist, a strong woman. She always taught me that, anything is possible. Even going back and remembering the sentences that she had told me as a young child, I would be thinking, wow, like that's powerful. Of course, it didn't mean anything to me then, but today, reflecting back, like even the simplest thing, like when I would be obsessed about having a brand or something, and she's like, why don't you create your own brand? I remember I was like 10 years old. I'm like, create my own brand? Yeah, why don't you let people be obsessed with you and with your brand, and I remember she would say things like that, and I'd be like, my God, what's she saying, But she was always the person who was very different, and she being from Tibet or Nepal, that's also another pressure in being in Saudi. But I always wanted to be part of that. And I'm talking about in my earlier age, of course, in teenage age and all that. And American pop culture is huge in Saudi. So I was like, that's it. This is where I'm going to be. This is where I want to be. That's me. I'm going to fit in immediately when I get there. And then I get there and I'm like, okay, I don't fit in. So, it was different. I was like, okay, I don't, there were so many things which I realized, I found more ignorance around me there, but they had more experience and knowledge, which is, I know it's very oxymoron, but, and I felt, okay, let me get what I need from this space because it's allowed. Where I was from, it wasn't. So I think that was the main thing that I wanted to get out of when I went abroad, and specifically to US and then to France and UK and other countries, is that I wanted to learn from them, and I ended up teaching a lot to them because it became like a experience for me of telling them, by the way, there are other beautiful cultures around the world that would add so much to what and when it comes to my mom being Tibet, I was always exposed to Buddhism, yoga, meditation, and all of that. So when you're in New York, and it was the boom of the yoga studios, and then early 2000s, it was like, I felt they were doing it. It was amazing how they did it and how they constructed it, the yoga classes and the meditation sessions. But I felt, but they don't get it. They didn't know the essence of it. So I felt, okay, this is my role. This is why I'm here. And I always felt like wherever I go, I had to give back in a way, or not give back, or share, share, and maybe in some way ignite someone, open up their mind slightly to see something differently.
But that's such an interesting mindset to have at such a young age, to come across someone who has that mentality, because a lot of people nowadays, they're called gatekeepers, they don't want to give the industry secrets away, and they don't want to share their knowledge or experience in fear that other people would supersede them and take over and take their importance and their attention. So you never had that feeling?
Never. And I think even when I started the business that I got into, fitness, I never started it as a point of, I'm never going to share this knowledge. I wanted to share it with everyone. Even the people who were working with me would come to me. They're like, why are you telling everyone about what we do? Why are you teaching them how we teach? We do things differently. And I'm saying, well, we'll have to do it better then every time, I've started with great instructors who today have their own studios and have their own gyms and have their own careers in fitness. Women who have worked with me, not as instructors, but in the management of gyms, have taken bigger roles. And it makes me proud. It doesn't defeat me at all. And it actually empowers me. If anything, I feel like, okay, that's it. This is what I want, And even when I came back from abroad and I wanted to share this knowledge of fitness and all that, and even though this was a side thing, I've never taken it seriously in terms of a full-time job. I had a full-time job working for a multinational company in marketing and sales. So that was my full-time thing. And this was something I did in the evenings, and I always wanted to share the knowledge with others. When I did that, I would do it, and just seeking out anyone in need, like anyone and person in need who was interested or was ready to change. I just wanted to come and give them that knowledge, and it's good. But sometimes, my friend says it could be too much, because she's like, some people don't want it, and and you have to back off. And I would just keep on persisting and persisting and persisting till they get it.
I think it's also about letting people know that you're there in case they do want it, right? Yes. You're there. Yes. You have the resources. You have the knowledge. I think one thing that is key about your story is belonging. And I struggle with this. Born and raised in London, Indian heritage. I feel like I don't belong in the UK. I don't belong in India. I'm not Indian enough. I'm not British enough. This belonging that we all yearn as humans, especially here in the UAE, which is such a cultural melting pot. Where does that come from? And I mean, I guess now what you've found out is it's not where you are necessarily, right? Geographically. It's about how you feel about yourself. Yeah. Tell me more about that moment for you.
I think this whole identity thing, I grew up with it. I grew up not comprehending who I was, and not just from in terms of heritage or nationality, even in a value system, which was really hard, to be taught from my mother to be tolerant to all different kind of religions, and to be taught the opposite in schools in Saudi, and to be exposed to my father's side of the family who are super religious, and then to be living in a compound where we were swimming. But I was like, what is right and what is wrong? Where am I supposed to be? Yeah, and I have 5 brothers. 3 of them were half brothers who were brought up by a Saudi mother who had a different value system. But they were my brothers. But they see me as I'm wrong, and I see them as wrong. So what is wrong and right? But I think for me, that was the biggest crisis. I was born in Singapore. I grew up there till I was 4 or 5 years old, moved to Saudi. And I think, and I always say that's the beginning of my depression. I don't know if it's true. I'm not diagnosed with depression or child depression, but I felt that I did come to an environment where I was different. And, and I had cousins who would come and show me off to other people and say, oh, look, she speaks different languages. Speak English, speak Malay, speak Hindi, and I'd be like, oh my God, what am I supposed to say?
Yeah.
But it was weird, but obviously we grow out of it. We understand that, okay, but today I own it. If anything, where do I belong? And I have to say this, that when someone asks me where I'm from, when I was in my early 20s, like 20 years ago, so I would be and abroad, and someone asks me, where are you from? I would be saying Saudi Arabia, and they won't get it. I would say Dubai, and I'll just make something familiar to everyone.
Right.
I just wanted to be familiar because I was sick of being unfamiliar. But today I have to say that I'm so proud to be Saudi. I'm just so proud. I'm like, it's everything that I have gone through in my personal life, all the hardship, it just paid off with, God bless him, the Crown Prince, His Royal Highness Prince Mohammed bin Salman. He just made it for me, and I'm sure he doesn't know, but he just really made it for me, because it felt like, oh my God, I took all the bullets, and right here I'm standing, and I'm actually not just standing here, I'm celebrated, for being different was a celebration today, where before it wasn't, but I have to say that today I own it. I was being with Saudis, I was ashamed to say my mom wasn't Saudi, and being with the Asians, because my mom she was in Singapore, and she has heritage in India too, and Nepal. Being there, I wouldn't say I was Arab, because it wasn't nice.
Yeah.
But it was always something that I couldn't be. But today I was like, no, I am all of that, and I'm much more. But I am Saudi with a Hadrami heritage from my father's side. His mother is Indonesian. My grandmother, my mom is Tibetan and from the royal family, which I was always ashamed of saying. I have royal blood. The Maharajas and Maharanis of India are like, I'm related to them in some way. But and my mom, being a rebel, of course, had chosen to leave that and live her own life, and I think that continues with me. My mother had chosen to marry a Saudi, and and today I'm married to an Italian, so but the mix still continues from generation to generation.
It does. And I guess it's just authenticity. It's, you found your way. But I do feel like, although now we're in 2023, anywhere around the world, kids, younger generations are still struggling with this. I guess you can call it an identity crisis. So you've already shared so much, but if you could, any kids listening at home who actually can relate to everything that you've just said, would you have any words of advice for them?
It's so hard being a kid with this emotion. It is. It's really hard. I feel you. I feel these children, and when I see them, I'd be like, oh, come, I want to hug you. I know how it feels, But today it is easier. We have to be proud of it. I think the one thing any person should do, with a mixed heritage or not, is really dig into your family history. Because there's going to be an ancestor who was an artist, or a person who, like my mother's great grandfather, he brought education to the people in Nepal. He was the first to do that. But there's going to be a part that you'll be proud of, and you have to know that you are a part of that. You know, it's not whatever you are today. You've inherited the name, you've inherited the history, and plus you are building it for the next generations. So you have to really do something really good, yeah, and make the best of it.
100%. And let's talk about building for the next generation, because that's exactly what you have gone and done. We spoke about you know, being a student, you turned into a teacher. You created the first Saudi Arab brand for fitness and sport apparel in the Middle East. Talk to me about that. What made you see that gap in the market? Was it your mum saying to you when you were younger, create your own brand?
Maybe subconsciously. Actually, the brand stemmed from, I'm not into fashion. I'm that person who's always in neutral colors. And even at the gym, I'm not the flashy person. Yeah, I'm always in black or white or off-white. But it came from in 2000, I think it was 2013, when there was a big, I don't know what, they were trying to fix up legislation in Saudi Arabia, and they started closing down all facilities that was providing services other than what the commercial registration said. And one of that was gyms. So female gyms, because female gyms didn't have a legislation. So at that point, they did a close down, like they hunted down all these hidden gyms, which I was very well participating in.
Okay, talk to me about hidden gym.
So they were like part of, so they were actual gyms and with full equipment, everything, but it would be part of a computer center or under a license of a female beauty parlor, or, you know, like different licensing,
right,
just to make it happen, because there wasn't one clear one for it. So, but that they went to all those places and said, okay, if you're a computer center, only have computers, close down the gym, and for everything else. So that was really hard. And like I've created you know, a following, and women are dependent on me, you know, in my, you know, post full-time job hours, where I was giving a lot of spin classes, yoga, workouts, you know, introducing different equipment every time I went to convention, coming back with my new ideas. And all of this was gone. And they couldn't do anything. And then I became very vocal about it, you know. And
how did you do that?
It was mainly through social media, and at that time, Twitter was, until now, it's very, very used highly in Saudi. So I was like saying that, you know, this has to be changed. We have to be, you know, women, you know, the statistics show that women have a higher obesity rate in Saudi. We don't have that freedom of moving outdoors as men do. So we need to have a space where we can do that. And then I think that what really killed me the most was that the comments that I got the negative comments that I got were from women.
Wow.
Yeah. And I think when I saw that, it wasn't one or two, it was like bad, women. And then one good one. Oh, he's a guy, you know? So the male were like, yes, please, you know, we want women to look better, you know, all those stupid comments.
Yeah.
But women were like, oh, you want to bring in your Western, and they hit they hit those sensitive parts, you know, you're not Saudi, or you're not fully there, or, you know, whatever, and you're trying to bring in what's not ours. This is not our culture. This is not what we do, you know, like that. And I was like really hurt. And I remember that I like isolated myself, and I had a few friends come over, and they're like, come on, you know, you can't like hide. And they were joking around, and I'm sure some listeners won't know this, but they were saying, you know, let's do a Jane Fonda video, and we'll all wear TIMA t-shirts. And TIMA was a name that my mom named me. No one calls me TIMA but her and like very close childhood friends. So TIMA
is the name of your brand.
Yes.
Yeah. Just to let everyone know.
Then she said that, she's like, we'll wear TIMA t-shirts and we'll do a workout behind you, and we'll just, you know, spread the DVDs or whatever. And she said that, and I just had that light bulb moment, and I was like, I should talk to women through fashion, because that's one thing in Saudi, however it is. And I don't know, people always thought women were covered, and they were the most fashionable women in the world, so I said, that is going to be my key. And then that's how the whole brand started. And I went to Brazil and went all around the world finding the right fit for us. And we started the brand TIMA. And it just became a social cause more than a business, but then it turned to a business, so which was good.
Which is great. It's a win-win for everyone, really.
Yeah.
And let's talk about the noise of the people, right? And like you said, it was mostly women, which is incredibly disheartening, because what you're trying to do is for them. It's what we spoke about earlier. Some people just aren't in the space to learn and to further their mind in certain topics. But you said your friends came around and they helped you out. And of course, the support system is the most important thing, especially when you're trying to break barriers in society. So tell me about the people around you, how important that has been throughout your journey.
I have to say the story, because that was really the breakthrough for me in barriers, and especially in my own mental barrier. In one of my spin classes, which I gave in a computer center, this was like maybe in 2006 or something. And I come into the class and I'm put the music on, and it's like a party on the bike, And there was this lady in the back of the class. She was like, in her zone and, cheering. And I was like, what? She had great energy. And I walk out the class. I stand outside. It was before women were allowed to drive. And I'm standing outside. I don't cover. And so I was standing there wearing, of course, abaya and head cover, but I'm not covering my face, waiting for the driver. And there was a lady right next to me who was covered from head to toe, like even black gloves. And I looked at her, and she turned to me and she said, "Great class." And of course, there is no eyes. I can't see her eyes. And I'm like, "You were in my class? Really?" She's like, "Yeah, I was the one in the back. I was the one cheering." I'm like, wow. And I think that moment I was like, okay, wow. And fitness became my language to reach to the people where I thought they didn't understand me. And what was incredible that she didn't know that I was like completely judging her, but she was telling me that, I have to tell you, when I first saw you coming in and started giving classes, and I saw your attitude and how you were, and you weren't, and you didn't, and I was trained in English by a teacher in English. He says, and you don't speak much Arabic. I always thought, like, what's wrong with her? This, this woman who's like Saudi, but not really Saudi, and not covered, and she doesn't look like us. And she says, I completely judged you. And when I saw you and how you teach and how you give and how you do, and I was like, listen, sister, I've been judging you the whole time too. So,
Right.
But it was like a moment of like an wow moment for me. I was like, okay, you know what? I have to, as much as I thought that I'm the victim being judged, being, different, I was doing the same thing towards others. And I think that's where I really had changed and opened up my circle and found a support system from every women of different age groups, elder women, younger girls, women who were my friends and who became my friends because of fitness, different background, different culture, different communities, societies. We became close just because fitness brought us together.
Wow, I love that story. Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that. I think what's really important is no matter what you're trying to do in life, especially for you who's really fighting for a social cause here and for a group in society, is keeping an open mind, right? Because you have to take into consideration so many different elements of people's lives. It's their culture, it's their physical limitations, it's what's going on at home, all these other things that I'm sure you came across within that community that you created. And I'm sure you were constantly learning. So how important is it for a leader or a pioneer or a trailblazer like yourself to still keep that vision open, like not be too tunnel vision about the goal and what you want to achieve, and also understand that it's the process and the journey throughout?
I think when I went to INSEAD and I took this leadership program thing, a management acceleration program, it was the first time that I heard of, and this was 2007, I think. It was the first time I heard of emotional intelligence. And they were talking about it and like that. And I was like, wow, I actually do that. I actually comprehend where am I currently emotionally, mentally, spiritually, for me to take a conversation forward or not. And even when, and I'm so aware of it with the people around me. So when I deal with someone, I try to understand where they're from. You know, I try to understand where they think people would be biased about them. You know, where they feel they could be vulnerable. And that was, I think it's something that has been given to me by God. But I have to say that is really the key for me in terms of comprehending the people around me and accepting that process and not thinking of where it's going to end up, you know. And I think that's where it always, for me, I was always never thought where it was going to end up. All I wanted to think about, okay, how is it feeling right now? How is it benefiting whoever it is or myself or us right now? Where it takes us, I don't know. Maybe it takes us somewhere, maybe it doesn't, but what matters is the now. Yeah.
I'm totally with you on that. And I think that's really important for everyone to listen to. Now, one thing you mentioned earlier was quite literally the changing of legislation, right? That is something, it's a whole movement. And, you know, you said you were incredibly vocal about it. Talk to me about the conversations you had to have. I mean, you're a young girl having these conversations, I imagine, with men, powerful men who are in positions to make these changes. Was that incredibly intimidating for you? Did you rise to the moment? How was it?
I was invited a few times to join a young Saudi businesswoman council. And I've always, you know, like shunned away from it because I felt it was very difficult for me to be in a position where I had to follow protocols and speak I do speak Arabic, but I mean speak Arabic in a formal way, and you know, and there's a proper way of doing things in that realm. So one of the girls, who's now a very good friend of mine, she told me, join the council, and we're going to go to the Ministry of Sports. Now Ministry of Sports. At that time it was Ministry of Youth, that give legislation for male gyms. And we're going to talk to them and say, we want, part of our scope is to enhance women abilities and opportunities to get into entrepreneurship and business in the Eastern Province. So that's one aspect that will open up a door for women to get into business. And that's what we're going to use. And then I told her, okay, you get me that meeting with the minister, I'm joining this council. And we did. And it was me and a few women, and we went there, and we had our presentation ready. I had all the statistics showing women's health status in Saudi and talking about actual women who have done things, but they were not able to shine in Saudi, and they had to do it elsewhere under different umbrellas, specifically in sports and all that. And I remember that meeting. It was like, it was nerve-wracking because I was sitting with the minister at that time, and to tell him, convince him to give us this legislation. And he, at the end of that discussion, he said, okay, done. And I remember it, for me, I was like, no, it can't be that easy. Like, no, really?
I just had to ask.
And that's it. I asked him when we're walking out, I said, thank you very much. And I took a photo, and I said, can I ask you, like, how did you just give it to us that easily? What was it? What was it in the information, or did you get this? Get even others who reached out and talked to you about this same matter? And he said, no one asked.
Wow.
And he said, nobody asked. And I remember when he said that to me, I was angry at every person it was in Saudi who was in fitness and never wanted to ask. They just shunned away because they were afraid that they're going to close down everything else. You know what I mean? But it's like, okay, let's just stay where we are. Let's not, break anything. Just stay there, But I remember he said, no one asked. And I remember at that moment, and he told me, now it's up to you. You've got permission now. Go ahead and do it. And I remember this was in Riyadh, and we were driving back. And when I was driving back in the car, back to Dammam, my friend is like saying, so, okay, now what's next? What are you going to do? I told her I have a full-time job, and, I actually just do this for, it's my passion, but it's like a hobby. It's not really what I want to do. And I don't know what to do with it. So, and then at that point, I had the opportunity to actually open the first licensed studio. I can't say it's the first gym because there have been many women in Saudi who have contributed to fitness before me. And then we did it. And I remember it was crazy. It was insane. Like, I know for everyone around the world, they think this is crazy. Like it's just a women's gym, but it was like, and we called it Studio 55 and, referring to Studio 54, which was a nightclub in the 70s. And, and we said, this is going to be a fun place. This is going to be a fun place for women with 55-minute classes. And it was just exhilarating when we first opened. It was to see all that support system right there and be part of it and then grow it, and it was incredible.
Because it's more than that. It's not just a fitness studio. It's not just a gym. It's not just a class. It's 55 minutes of a woman getting to express herself. It's 55 minutes of a woman actually being able to be her true, authentic self. How is that community now that you've created?
It's just incredible because it's from the women to women, and even like because we do these conferences every year pre-COVID in Miami, which is a big spinning conference and spinning and fitness and everything, and we have a circle within that global community which is called Soul Sisters, and when they saw what we're doing in Saudi, they're like, wow, you guys have this naturally. Us women, we need to create space for ourselves. You've got it here, right? But even the concept itself, I think would work anywhere in the world. It's not because we have to be segregated in Saudi. We're doing it. I really believe that even if gyms are going to be allowed mixed in Saudi, I'm going to continue it with being only women because it's just really empowering. I would have days where I'd be really sucked my energy out and like feeling down. I would go in there and not teaching class, attending a class with other women. And I just see their energy and see who they are. And then, and these women, they go through a lot,
We just don't talk about it.
We just don't talk about it. And, and they just have this moment for themselves, and it's just incredible to see how, we've created these communities where women have become friends. And lots of long-lasting relationships came out of it, and even businesses came out of it. Women met each other, started new ideas, different initiatives. It's just incredible.
And that's something that you've really been a part of, is promoting entrepreneurship within young Saudi females as well. How is that scene doing, and what more can be done?
It's today Saudi is just incredible. Like I'm going to be the ambassador of Saudi. After all these years of being not wanting to be Saudi, now I'm just love it, and I love the scene for where it is today for women, even though men feel like they're left out, but it is our time and we need compensation for all those years. So, and when it comes to entrepreneurship also, it's incredible how women are instinctively entrepreneurial. They have that, I believe, more than men do because of, you have to have solutions at home as a mother, as a daughter, as a sister, as, you have so many different roles, and women come to solutions really quick because it's their instinct that they have to get there. But with entrepreneurship, I've seen women come up with like the craziest ideas, and maybe they start the business and maybe they're part of it. And maybe they even enter startups that are founded by men, but they just turn it to the next level. And today, the scene in Saudi, there is lots of support and for SMEs and for startups. There's incubators, there's accelerators, there's everything. And for me personally, I'm like in different mentorship programs to help the startups in different types of businesses, not just fitness. So there is a whole ecosystem today, I could say, in Saudi that helps an entrepreneur and specifically a woman.
Is it now a case of women now making sure if they have the ideas to go forward with it? Is there less of a fear now? Is there less of a stigma around a woman being an entrepreneur, running her own business, creating her own brand?
No, today I think I always say this to younger women, especially when I have talks at universities. I say, now the ball's at your court. Play it. Before, we didn't have a ball. We weren't allowed in the court. Now you have the court and you have the ball. You have to play it. It's all in your hands right now. Nothing is stopping you. At a time where myself and many other in my generation, and also the generation before me, who really broke boundaries and like it was hard to start something, and they've done it. So today they don't have an excuse. Today they can do it. And honestly, Saudi women are capable. They
are more than capable, and you are an absolute testament to that, Fatima. I am so grateful we got to sit down and have this conversation. You are such an inspiration, not just for the younger generation. I think as we spoke about earlier, age is nothing but a number. You can be inspired by people younger than you. I wish you all the love and light for everything that you do and the movement that you've created. You should be incredibly proud of yourself.
Thank you.
And thank you so much once again for your time.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Group. So tell me more about that, what your role entails.
And honestly, this is a role that I feel I've been prepared for all these years. I started my career in multinational companies and then in every way tried to leave Saudi and then ended up in a very strong, big company in Saudi and worked with them, and then left that to start my sport adventure and entrepreneurship. And then I was pregnant in 2021. And at that point I said, okay, I'm going to take a break. And I found the investor in the Studio 55, and it's going to expand and move forward. And I said, okay, this is me going to create a little nest for myself. And then I was approached by Switz, which is industrial baking. Has nothing to do with what I've done in my life, other than marketing and sales. That's the only thing I could relate to. I have no engineering background or understand manufacturing or anything that way. And we had the interview, and I was like, there's something different about this. It's not just a job. It's not just the title of CEO, but it's the culture. And whenever I work with anything and anyone, I always try to see a value system where we click. And I just felt that my role here, being CEO, had also, supporting my personal life agenda of supporting, empowering women, and Saudiization and hiring a female is huge in the company. So it was really, really stirred up another fire in me, which I thought I was over with. I thought, okay, that's it. Have a baby, stay home. So that's where I am today. I am the CEO, and it's incredible. It's fun. It's a learning journey. I've completed a year with them, and it's been, thank God, a very good year. And looking forward to many more years with them too.
And I feel like we spoke about dreams change all the time. Yes. I feel like every day I'm different. Every day I want something more. So for you, what is the dream What's the next dream? What do we see happening in your life in 5 to 10 years' time, God willing?
For me, I think the dream is not really a destination or a position or where I will be or anything like that. But my dream is just to continue spreading my message. And I use different vehicles for it. And I believe that I had different vehicles throughout my life for it. If it was through fitness, if it was through, different podcasts that I'm doing, or speaker in conferences, and it just feels like I want to continue this and, make sure that I really help the next generation. This is, I think, really now looking at the younger women, looking at where they are and that they have everything. I can imagine that's scary.
Yeah.
Right? We didn't have anything and now you do have everything. What are you going to do with it? And I think that is where I really want to be part of. And that's what I really want to contribute in. And the next 5-10 years, I hope I continue doing what I do.
Fingers crossed. I have no doubt whatsoever. So I want to thank you so much for your time, for being here with us. I hope you enjoyed your first ever podcast episode.
Yes, it's amazing.
Sorry, I almost made you cry a couple of times, but it's been an honor. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Women in Leadership, brought to you by Heroncode, the management consultancy for what happens next. For more information, you can visit heroncode.com.